rights group Amnesty International is calling on Nigerian authorities to independently investigate what it calls an alarming escalation in attacks and abductions across several states in the north of the West African nation. It says that more than 1,100 people have been killed in this region alone during the first half of this year. Amnesty says that the Nigerian government has left residents of the country's rural areas to fend for themselves against increasing attacks. To discuss this further, I'm now joined via Zoom by Director of Amnesty International in Nigeria, Osai Ojigho. Thanks so much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
This is a distressing story that we're having to deal with you in a report that you've released. Tell us about what is happening in the northern parts of the country.
Yes, it's quite shocking and worrying. The trend has been rising for the last year or so. And what is really baffling us is the fact that despite the number of people that have died this year alone, the complaints, the cases keep rising, and the government seems helpless at the least, and maybe incompetent at the worst to tackling this issue. And now we're talking about an area of the north that is outside of the Boko Haram normal areas. We're talking about the northwestern states and the north central states. So it shows that there's almost conflict everywhere in northern Nigeria. And the capital, Abuja, is surrounded by these areas. So it shows that if they don't take care, very soon, even the city of Abuja could be under siege by these rising cases of violence, banditry, and attacks on people without any sense of recourse.
All right, so if we take out Boko Haram from the equation, who is involved in this violence?
So the information we get from our sources on the ground and also from the villagers in their testimony are they just seem to appear from nowhere. They appear to be an organized crime syndicate who specialize in raiding cattle, burning villages, getting people away from their normal areas in order for them to loot and in order for them to steal. And in a place like Katsina, they even abduct women as well. But there's no agenda. They don't come and say, we are coming to take over your land. It seems that they're just interested in taking people's properties and scaring people away from their land. Because we also need to put it in perspective. In a place like Zamfara, where gold has recently become, a key source of mineral wealth, there's a lot of discussions that perhaps they want the villagers far away from it to allow illegal mining to take place. But then when you look at places like Kaduna, Katsina, Plateau, it seems the interest seems to be more in terms of taking as much as they can in order to fend whatever criminal enterprise that they have. But the bottom line is that the government seems not to know what to do with these bandits or with these attackers. And they have such sophisticated weapons that even police officers, when they arrive on the scene, hours or days after the incident, are baffled by the destruction and still have not been able to make any arrests.
Your report suggests that at times people have called for help and either they were slow in coming or they came and left.
Yes, there was an incident that happened in Kaduna State, for example. They turned up in time, but when they saw the weapons that the bandits had, they retreated. And then in other cases, they've had to come days even after an attack has occurred. And they also complain about being overstretched somewhat. We do understand that if these attacks are being coordinated, then it means that they require a little bit of intelligence in order for them to act promptly. But I think it's really a call now to ask, where are the resources for the security forces in order for them to do their job? And is there already a strain as a result of the fight? The focus has been mostly on the northeast with Boko Haram. Perhaps now there needs to be a more coordinated approach to addressing the insecurity situation in northern Nigeria so that even the police force and the military themselves are better equipped in order to address the escalating violence that we are seeing. We also believe that there might be other interests that are fueling conflict in that region, so as to distract people probably from the mineral wealth which is recently being mined and recently being the focus of that region as well.
We've been talking mostly about banditry, but things are slightly different in Taraba State, aren't they? Because there's a sense there that this is more ethnically driven.
Yes, and we've traced it to not just recent happenings, but historical ethnic divisions and suspicion and dominance. And while people might find it quite fascinating, for us, it's not out of place. Because when you look at the way the political machinery has been in Nigeria, it's always a case when people are trying to assert themselves and to decide who is going to be the next governor, who is going to contest the next elections, and whether it is time now for a particular tribe that has been dominating the political space to give way to another. And the sad thing is that because these issues have never been addressed, the root causes have never been addressed, they keep surfacing each time, and then politicians exploit it in their favor. So this is something that really needs to address the growing insecurity and the fact that even that region is beginning to have a huge number of internally displaced persons as a result of these intercommunal conflicts.
Talking about displaced persons, if this escalation continues unchecked, you could have a humanitarian crisis on your hands.
Definitely, we're already seeing the effect of the Boko Haram insurgency. We are also currently experiencing food shortages, food insecurity. Many people are running away from the villages to the cities. The cities do not have capacity in order to cope for them. Our communities are not used to having such large numbers of IDPs in that space. So it means that they're also vulnerable and exposed to other abuses, and even the humanitarian assistance that comes from the United Nations and other humanitarian is struggling with that, because these are situations that could be very well avoided. Has nothing to do with natural disasters. It just has to do a lot more with conflict management and an understanding about where justice lies. Because if the perpetrators of this violence have been arrested, investigated, people can actually see that the wheels of justice is moving, then we'll have a situation where they will have confidence in the security forces, confidence in their government in order to provide the security and the safety they need in order to farm, in order to pursue their livelihoods, and so that their children and other family members can live a normal life. Right now, that is non-existent in that region.
All right. Perhaps finally, it does seem the authorities are being found wanting in many fronts, not showing up on time, running away essentially. But also a disturbing part of your report is that some people who sought help and seek protection, they themselves were arrested.
Sadly, we have a huge intolerance in the country that we've seen exhibited by security forces against people who complain about abuse, especially when they protest. And it's something that I think it cuts across the country. But when you are looking at a situation of conflict, you expect even more empathy and even more understanding that if people are frustrated and they're expressing themselves, you should allow them to do so in a safe manner, and you should not further inflict further harm and pain on them, because then they are caught in the middle. They are running away from the bandits, and then their government is also punishing them for speaking out and sharing their frustrations to the world. And that really should not be happening in a country like Nigeria, who is celebrating like 20 years of continuous rule since the military left in 1999. So there's a lot more that we demand of the government, which is respect for fundamental human rights, people's right to protest, and also protection for victims of human rights violations. And where state agents have been found wanting for also inflicting violence and not allowing people to get access to justice, then they too should be disciplined so that we can get law and order and the rule of law instituted again and working well for all people, regardless of where they come from.
All right, that's where we're going to have to leave it. But thank you very much indeed for bringing this story to our attention. And let's hope that something can be done. A lot of lives are at stake. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing our story.